Good morning, guys. Welcome back. It's fall. We're so excited to have the cooler weather. I know some of you are probably sad to see summer go, but Mrs. Marple is super excited for all things fall, including Halloween, pumpkins, pies, all sorts of yummy things that come with fall. So actually what we're going to talk about today is pumpkins. Pumpkins come in all different shapes and sizes, and so today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some directed drawings on some fall things for you. So make sure that you have your paper and your supplies and get ready. We are getting ready to draw. Hey guys, welcome back. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be drawing pumpkins. I know it's kind of close. Ooh, big pumpkin. But pumpkins come in all different shapes and sizes. And I'm going to show you guys how to draw a traditional pumpkin. I will also include some pictures so you can put them up on your smartboard so you can see how many different colors they come in. But technically what we're doing today is going to be a still life drawing. So a landscape is a picture of outside. Portraits are pictures of people or animals, right? And then there is something called a still life. And a still life is basically what it sounds like. It's something that's still. So pumpkins usually don't get up and grow legs and walk around. A vase full of flowers is considered a still life. A bowl full of fruit, a pair of dirty sneakers next to the door, that is a still life. Those things don't move unless they are being moved. So with our pumpkin today, we're going to focus on the side view. This is what we would call an aerial view. When you're looking at it from on top, we're going to be doing the side. And you can see these lines that are drawn on the pumpkin or painted on. This is a pretend pumpkin. I'll try to see if I've got some real pumpkins to send to your classroom so you can look at them a little bit closer. But we're going to focus on these segments, these bumps right here. And the shape that it looks like from the side is almost like an oval. So those are the shapes that we're going to start with. I want you guys to maybe practice on a piece of paper first so you can get the hang of this before you actually draw on your watercolor paper and your orange paper that I'm sending you. I want you to try a couple different ways to do this. So what you're going to do first is you're going to decide how big you want your pumpkin to be. And it depends on how tall your oval is. I'm trying to see my hands here. Okay. So I'm going to start with an oval in the middle, and this is going to be my center segment. I need to draw a few more of these, but this is going to be the first one I start with. So I know how big my pumpkin, or how tall it's going to be at least, judging from the sides of this. Now I'm going to come up here at the top, and I'm almost going to draw a half oval. I'm not going to overlap them, but they are going to touch. So now I have two segments to my pumpkin. I want it to match on the other side. It almost looks like a giant ear, doesn't it? Big elephant ears. Okay, there's my other segment. Now I could stop here or I could keep going, depending on how big you want your pumpkin to be. I'm going to go ahead and draw a couple more segments using that same shape, keeping it connected. Okay, so that's all you need to do to create a pumpkin form on your paper. It looks three-dimensional because it's using those curved lines. We're not doing circle pumpkins or square pumpkins. We're giving it a little bit more of a three-dimensional feel. Now, after you're done with your pumpkin body, let's talk about the stem. You could do a simplified stem with a rectangle, but I really like the way that this is off to the side and it starts larger where it connects to the pumpkin and then it gets skinnier where it's connected to the vine. So I'm going to do that same thing up at the top here. Starting wider at the base, at the bottom, and then I'm going to come up into a skinnier piece of stem. Okay, so I want you guys to try to practice these on your paper in a few different places. And when you're done, you can come back here with your watercolor paper and watch that video again if you like. I want you to have one big pumpkin in the middle, and then I want you to draw some smaller pumpkins beside it, okay? So really quickly, I already have this pumpkin drawn, so if you need to pause, practice your pumpkins for just a little bit, and when you feel confident and ready, I want you to get your watercolor paper out and do just what I did here. I'm going to go ahead and add my extra little pumpkins. I'm going to make them smaller, and I'm going to let this pumpkin cover part of it. So I'm going to start with my middle segment down here. You see how it's a lot smaller? Okay. And now I'm going to do those ears, those half ovals. Those are connected to it. And when I run into my pumpkin, I'm not going to draw over this line. I want to keep it there. So now it looks like my pumpkin is in front of the smaller one. And they don't all have to have the same amount of segments. Okay, so that pumpkin is done. I'm going to do a little bit different style of stem. That one's a curly one. And then I'm going to do another one over here. And maybe I want this one to be a little bit taller. So I'm going to do a skinny segment. It's still smaller than the big one, but it doesn't have to be. You can have this pumpkin be huge if you want to, but I'm going to make mine both smaller. Draw your ears again. I want all of my pumpkins to have 5 segments. You need to have at least 3 segments on your pumpkin. That's kind of a weird stem. That's okay though, I like it. All right, so after you have your pumpkins drawn, what I would like for you to do is use your Sharpie that I'm providing you, and I want you to go over all of your pencil lines. We do this a lot. Sometimes we use oil pastel to go over our pencil lines. I want you guys to use Sharpie this time. Okay, and we're not going to be coloring anything in. We're not drawing faces on these pumpkins. I want you to just outline them. And the reason we're not going to draw faces on these pumpkins is because if you leave the face off, you can use this as a decoration or a piece of art in your home that can stay up all fall. It doesn't just have to stay up for Halloween. Because I don't know about you, but after Halloween is over, I get a little bit sad and I have to put away all of my cute Halloween decorations that have pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern faces on them. And so this is something that can stay up all the way until Christmas time if you want. Okay, I'm going to finish up my Sharpie and then I'll meet you back here with some watercolors. Okay guys, I have finished outlining my pumpkins with Sharpie. And now I wanted to show you some resources I found in the library with the wonderful Mrs. Steele. She was able to show me a poster. I had a book somewhere about pumpkins, but I couldn't find it this quickly. So I want you to see, there's the traditional orange pumpkin. Look at that one, isn't that pretty? It's like a bluish green. There's some with spots on them. The Cinderella pumpkin is super flat looking, and then we have white pumpkins. There's lots of different kinds other than these two. And I'll provide some books for you as well. But I want you to be thinking about what colors you want to paint your pumpkins. I want you to try to pick some colors of real pumpkins. Like I wouldn't see a rainbow pumpkin. Here's some pumpkins. They come in red, orange, yellow, orange, green, kind of a gray color, orange and green speckled, kind of a peachy color. They come in white. So think about what you would like your pumpkins to look like. And then I'm going to give you guys some watercolor sets, and I want you guys to fill in your pumpkins. And I've got a tip for you. So you see how this tray is dirty? Yuck. That's okay though, because I'm going to use this kind of brownish color up here to kind of work with my pumpkins, because sometimes those pumpkins are dirty out on the farm. And so I'm going to mix the color in my tray, just like I did for my skin tone rainbow, to make some pretty oranges to paint my pumpkins. And then I am going to use some blue and black to make a gray. I think I want my middle pumpkin to be that color. So when you paint on this watercolor paper, the water's going to spread a little bit. It's not oil pastel that we use to outline, so our water's going to want to kind of move around. So what I'm going to suggest is that you paint one of the side pumpkins first, so that you can paint one pumpkin and then jump to the other pumpkin and paint this guy. Because if we painted the big pumpkin and the little pumpkin together at the same time, this pumpkin, if it was a totally different color, might bleed over into this pumpkin, and I might not want that. So I'm going to paint this side first. Remember, the watercolor paper I'm giving you has something called tooth on it, so it has a texture. So it works a little bit better for our paint today. We're not using tempera, we're using watercolor. So you have to wake it up with water first. And while this is wet, you can do a technique called wet on wet, where the paper is already wet. And then you can add some colors on top. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to add some of those green dots on top while it's wet so they can spread a little bit. You see how they're spreading? Look kind of fun. Nice spotted little pumpkin. And you don't have to do that, but I'm just showing you a technique that you might want to try. Okay, so there's my first little pumpkin. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to choose a different color orange. I want to do red orange on this guy. So I'm going to use my orange. Mix it up over here. It's got a little bit of brown over here, but that's okay. Hopefully you guys are starting with a clean tray to mix your colors in. But I am okay with a little bit of a dirty brown color to start with. And I'll mix some of my red in there. Ooh, it's looking good. I like it. Maybe a little bit more orange. Yes, perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to be painting in this pumpkin. I don't want to paint this guy because my green and my orange would spread over, and I want that pumpkin in the middle to be that grayish blue color. And after this dries, you can always go back over your watercolor if you want it to be more opaque. Watercolor paint is what we call a translucent paint, and so you can see through it. So unless you use just a tiny bit of water with this, it's going to be a little bit on the thin side, which is what I like about it. I'm going to add a little bit of brown in there too. Okay, so what we're going to do after that is you can either go up and paint the stems if you want to. Hopefully this area over here is dry by now, but if not, give your paper a little bit of time to dry. I think mine is going to be dry enough for me to work next to right here, or I can, you know what, let's paint the stem first. So on my bluish gray pumpkin here that I'm being inspired by, that guy right there, I'm going to do a brownish green stem. And you can make your stem black if you want to. You could do brown, you could do green, you could do black. You need a little bit of green in there. Kind of like that. Okay. So I have my stem painted, and now I'm going to be painting the body of my pumpkin. And I said I wanted to use a bluish gray. And I already have this kind of brownish color on my tray. Looks like a lot of black on there. Ooh, that's actually looking really good. So I would, if I was starting out new, I would use black and blue and maybe a little bit of green. A little bit of green in there. And then if you want it to be a really light blue, you would add more water. The more water you add to your watercolor, the thinner it's going to look, the lighter in color. It's called diluting your color. More transparent. Okay. So I'm adding water to the color I just laid down. I think I want to add a little bit more blue to that. There we go. I like that. So I'm going to finish up my bluish pumpkin here, and then I'm going to also paint my little stems, and we'll talk about what you can do in the background after we're all done. Okay, I'll meet you back here in just a few minutes. Okay, so I finished up my pumpkins. They're painted and drying. I would suggest that you let your pumpkins completely dry before you start painting a background, if you want a background. This could also be your day 2 of your art lesson if you like. But what I'm going to suggest that you do is maybe pick another fall color. Or you don't have to though. I mean, you could pick purple, you could pick black, you could pick yellow, green, whatever you like. But what I would do, I'm going to use yellow and maybe just a tad of red. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to paint not super close. I'm going to leave a little bit of white space all the way around. You know, it's hard to see with yellow. Do you see how I'm not touching my pumpkin? I'm giving it a little bubble, a little space, a barrier, so that I know my paint is not going to get on my pumpkins that I worked so hard to make. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around my collection of pumpkins, my variety. Remember, variety is a fancy word for more than one kind. And I'm gonna just do yellow. And you can go all the way to the edge of the paper, or you can just do a little bit of a border, kind of like what I'm doing here. I don't think I'll go all the way to the edge, but I might, I don't know. So I'm gonna pause here, and I'm gonna paint around my pumpkins, and you can check back when I'm done and see if you want to add a background. Your pumpkins are beautiful just the way they are on your paper, but if you'd like a background, I think that would also look nice. All right, guys, we are back. I have finished my background. I just did a light yellow all the way around the outsides. I didn't even go all the way up to the top of the paper, but if you wanted to, you totally could. You can also paint rainbow or whatever behind your pumpkins, but I wanted your pumpkins to be realistic colors, and there's lots of different cool pumpkin colors to choose from. When you're done, please make sure that you clean up your sets, unlike the kid who left this mess in here for me. So I'm gonna take a wipe and I'm just gonna wipe those out so that it's clean for the next person to mix in. Maybe it's you that's gonna get this tray, and hopefully it will be nice and clean. Feel free to practice pumpkins and put faces on them in your free time. This is a great way to start a jack-o'-lantern or a pumpkin for any kind of activity that you're doing. All right, bye. Hello, friends. We are going to be working on pumpkins today. So if you wanted to do the more advanced version, I have that attached as well. This is more for my friends in Mrs. Stutzman's class, my younger friends. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be drawing pumpkins. And I'm sure you guys probably have some decorations in your room. If you don't, I will probably send down some pumpkins for you to look at and observe in your classroom. It can also be a good science unit. You can talk about how they start from seeds and are planted in the ground and what makes a gourd and things like that. So we're focusing on the drawing today, and we're going to break it down into simple shapes, and hopefully everyone will enjoy this. So make sure that you have at least a pencil and a piece of paper. I'm going to be using orange. I'm going to send some orange down with you, but if you feel more comfortable drawing on white paper, that's fine too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be drawing a pumpkin from the side, not from the top. This is what we would call an aerial view. So like if you were a bird flying over a pumpkin patch, that's what you would see. We're going to draw the side. And what I see is little ovals, little segments. And so I'm going to take that oval shape, and I'm going to draw a big oval right in the middle of my paper. Okay, an oval, oops, make sure you guys can see that, okay. Okay, there's my oval. So an oval is a circle that's stretched out, right? So we want to take a circle and stretch it out. I also have some tracers you guys can use if you need to. And then what I want to do is I'm going to draw another oval, but I'm not going to draw a whole oval. I'm going to draw maybe like half. But I'm going to start by touching the top of my first oval, and I'm going to go out all the way down and bring it down to touch the other side. It's gonna look a little bit like giant ears. And now I'm gonna go to the other side. If you need to pause real quick, go ahead and pause. I'm gonna go ahead and start doing the same thing, but on the opposite side. We want it to be kind of symmetrical, but since it's something from nature, nature is not perfect. And so you can see like on this pumpkin, ooh, it's kind of big. I'll let you see this one in class. There's a bunch of different shaped segments. Look how big this one is compared to this little bitty one. So they don't all have to be the same. So now I have 1, 2, 3 segments. I'm going to do 2 more. Same way. 1, 2. Okay. So we have our body of our pumpkin. If pumpkins had bodies, I guess. And now we need to add the stem. Okay, so you could use a rectangle for this if you wanted to. You could use a little pointy top if you wanted to, like a triangle. I'm gonna do a rectangle base that's gonna get a little bit thinner at the top. So it starts big and then it gets thinner at the top where it's attached to the vine. If you need to practice this pumpkin a little bit more, you can, or you can just flip it on the back and try again. You also have an eraser you can use if you want to change something small about your pumpkin. And you want to make any changes that you want to make before you start the next step. The next step we're going to be doing is with quick sticks. Now these are solid tempera paint, but they're like a glue stick, so you can draw with them and they dry pretty quickly. This is also a good way to paint without using water. But you have to be careful. You got to make sure that you twist the paint back down when you're done using them. And when you twist them up, you don't twist so much paint out of it that when you color with it, that the top breaks off. Okay, so most of you are familiar with glue sticks, so hopefully you'll be able to use these without any issue. And what I want you to do is draw on top of your pencil lines with these paint sticks. And if they don't get right on top of the lines, that's okay, don't worry. But you can see that it's making nice dark marks on my paper. And today we're just going to be making a regular pumpkin. We're not going to be worrying about a jack-o'-lantern face. I love my pumpkin, it's looking good. And this paint will dry pretty quickly, but if you're done with your black, twist down and snap that cap on. You should hear a snap sound. And now I can use a different color for my stem. You might want to use brown, you might want to use green for your stem. I think I'm going to use brown. And you can paint just right over the top. Okay, I'm done with that color. Twist it down. Now on your pumpkin, you might want to add a little bit of yellow in here. You might want to do a different color stripe on it. Pumpkins actually come in a lot of different colors. I got this resource from the library. Mrs. Steele was real sweet to let me borrow it with a variety of different pumpkins. So you can see we've got a white pumpkin, Cinderella pumpkins, bright orange. We've got green spots, have almost a bluish gray. And then we have a reddish orange. But there's even more pumpkins in this. There's so many different kinds of pumpkins. So if you want to add some little details to your pumpkin, you can do that. Or you can just leave it like this. I like to add highlights on my pumpkin to make them look shiny. And the way you do that is you should have a white paint stick right here. And since your paper is not white, this will show up. So I'm going to do a little highlight on my pumpkin segments. There we go. So now it looks like a shiny pumpkin. Okay. Now, I hope you guys had fun drawing your pumpkin. What I want you to do when you're done is you can use these paint sticks to paint in your background. You can make a vine if you want to. You can draw leaves if you want to. I might even include some stickers for you guys to add to your pumpkin. Leaves or ghosts or something fun like that. So I'm just going to do some vines with leaves on it. And this will dry really fast. So the colors usually don't mix together, but if they mix together, that's okay too. And you can paint the background, or you can leave it if you want to. I'm gonna paint mine purple. You can do rainbow. There's a lot of different things you can do. This is a good assignment to practice using paint sticks. I hope you like using these. I'm hoping to get you guys some different supplies, some fun things to use in your classroom. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and paint the rest of my background, and I will show you a picture of what it looks like when it's done. I can't wait to see yours. Okay guys, I finished up my pumpkin picture. I added some spirals and some vines, and then I colored in the background. I also added a little bit of dark orange on top of my construction paper. You can fill in your whole pumpkin with orange if you want to, if you don't like the color of the orange construction paper. All right, I hope you guys had fun, and I hope you guys practice those pumpkins and draw a lot more. See you guys next time.